What's up, y'all? This is Jonathan Lippy, Beyond the Harmony, beyondtheharmony.com. And today, as we celebrate the 30th anniversary of E.1999 Eternal, we are going to examine some of the musical theory of the scales, of the keys, of the notes that all of the songs of E.1999 Eternal were recorded in. I had previously mentioned both on one of the E.1999 retrospective videos as well as in the live that when I hear the songs, I experience different colors. Most people understood what I was getting at. A few people tried to clown the man. I forgive them for what they do not know. But I also wondered, these colors that I'm experiencing as I hear the music, do they directly correlate to different scales? So to address the color thing that I had brought up previously, scales and color, synesthesia and ancient theory. So for synesthesia, some people, me, experience chromothesia, a form of synesthesia where musical notes, keys, or chords trigger color perceptions. This isn't rare among musicians and deep listeners. Pharrell Williams, Kanye West, Liszt reported it. In this view, when you hear a G minor song, your brain cross-activates visual areas, giving you a consistent color sense for that key. There's also ancient and esoteric links. Pythagoras and Plato connected modes, scales, to cosmic order and colors. Medieval music theory tied certain modes to liturgical colors. For example, minor modes to deep blues, purples, and blacks. For mourning and mystery, Kandinsky and Scriabin, who were early 20th century artists and composers, they made full color tone systems mapping specific keys to colors. And here are keys arranged in a circle of fifths in order to show the relationship with the visible spectrum in Scriabin's variant of synesthesia. I'm showing this because, like I said, I got doubted, I got clowned, and I'm like, man, I'm not wrong. I was over there trying to give you the ultimate experience of E.1999 Eternal, and I'm getting laughed at like I'm making this stuff up. I'm not making it up. All right, so for the modern consensus, there's been rough patterns found, and while there's no single official mapping, these patterns emerge across many synesthetic reports. So for the major keys, warm, bright colors, yellows, oranges, pastel blues. Minor keys, cool, dark colors, deep blues, purples, greens, sometimes reds. For example, G minor is often described as deep greenish blue teal, associated with solemnity and reflection. F sharp minor comes across as a dark violet or indigo, moody, mystical, night-like. B minor tends to be perceived as dark red or burgundy, sorrowful but intense. And why it matters for E.1999 Eternal. Your color experiences when listening might be your brain naturally encoding the emotional tone of these keys as colors. This album, being almost all in minor keys, explains why you'd see darker, cooler colors when hearing it. Even DJ Unique's production style, layered synths, church-like organs, reverb, likely amplifies these associations. So I found an AI website that could determine the key scale that the song is in. It also provided the beats per minute as well as the alt key, which is used in what's called a Camelot wheel for DJs to mix. So the first one I asked about was Mr. Bill Collector, because that's the one that I experienced the colors that I enjoy the most. So it's in B flat minor, alt key 3A. The introduction, G minor. E.1999, E minor. Eternal, the song, A flat minor. Crept and We Came, G minor. Down 71, B minor. Bud Smokers Only, B flat minor. The CROSSROADS DJ Unique Remix, B major. Mikilla, F sharp minor. Land of the Heartless, F sharp minor. No Shorts, No Losses, surprisingly, G major. First of the Month, G minor. That's surprising. I thought first of the month might have been a major key, but now that I think about it, I can see how it's in a minor. Buddha Lovers, C minor. Die, 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 F sharp minor. Mr. Ouija 2, F sharp minor. Mo Murda, E flat minor. Shots to the Double Glock, F minor. And then surprisingly, Mr. Ouija Part 1, is A flat minor. Keep in mind, Mr. Ouija 2 is F sharp minor. And if you go back and listen to the two, they do sound significantly different, and I think it has to do with the different voices. Not pictured there was the original Crossroad, which is G minor. So as we look at the album as a whole, it's interesting to see the variety of song scales that the album is in. The majority of it is in the minor, minus the Crossroads, which is obvious. The surprising one, No Shorts, No Losses. Additionally surprising, First of the Month. But also there's no D minor. There is an A flat minor, B minor, B flat minor, C minor, E minor, F sharp minor, and G minor, but no D minor. Minus the D minor, that's the whole scale of the minor scales. Now, which had the most? It was a combination between F sharp minor and G minor. So for F sharp minor was Me Killa, Mr. Ouija 2, Land of the Heartless, Die, Die, Die. G minor had the introduction, Crept and We Came, First of the Month, and the original Crossroads. Now, you see No Shorts, No Losses is highlighted because what I did was I used multiple AI programs to make sure that the scales I was getting were consistent. I got different readings for No Shorts, No Losses. One had it in G major, which that was the surprise, but then the other had it in A minor, which would be more consistent with what you would think when you think of No Shorts, No Losses. Because I don't know if the AI is true or not. I was getting different reading, like different AI was giving me different outputs, so I wanted to see which parts were consistent. So this was a totally different site than the previous one I used. And so this one's showing B major for the Crossroads, G flat minor for Die, 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 G flat minor for Mr. Ouija 2. So keep in mind, we were getting F sharp minor, and this site's saying G sharp minor. And then for Shasta the Double Glock, we're getting F minor, Buddha Lovers, G minor, First of the Month, G minor, DJ Unique Crossroads Remix, B major, Mr. Bill Collector, B flat minor, Mo Murda, E flat minor, Me Killa, G flat minor. So there's a consistency at least. The ones that this site is listing for G flat minor, the other site was calling it F sharp minor. So it's at least grouping the songs into the same key, but it's just not consistent with which particular note they're saying. So anyway, that was Me Killa. No Shorts, No Losses, A minor. Land of the Heartless, G flat minor. Blood Smokers Only, B flat minor. Crept and We Came, G minor. Eternal, A flat minor. Mr. Ouija, A flat minor. E.1999, E minor. The Introduction, G minor. Down 71, B minor. By the way, I included Mr. Ouija 1 in there just to compare it to Mr. Ouija 2. I thought it would be an interesting comparison. Plus, to show you they're in different scales, it should make listening to those songs interesting, especially if you play them back to back. Now, how does the major versus minor scale affect the brain? The major scale is bright, upbeat, optimistic. It stimulates dopamine in the reward pathways. The minor scale is dark, melancholic, emotional. It activates the limbic system for emotion and memory. Now, what I should have done instead of trusting all this to AI, because AI could be completely wrong on every single one of these scales, was just simply to download an app and just play Eternal and let the app tell me what key the songs are in. I didn't think of it till right this second to do that. So all of these scales that I listed could be wrong because AI has no idea sometimes. I love AI, but it's not perfect. For instance, if we look at the Camelot wheel mapping of E.1999 Eternal reveals the album's heavy reliance. You see that it's all minor. Well, actually, the Camelot wheel is kind of interesting, but this is all wrong. Like these pictures, graphics that it created for me are not accurate. So the other one says the Camelot wheel mapping of E.1999 Eternal reveals the album's heavy reliance on the darker minor keys in order to create a haunting vibe. But what I wondered was, as the later albums happen that people don't enjoy so much, they say we need to go back to the East 99 style. I wondered, maybe it's not the rapping, maybe it's just the minor scales that people wanted. Perhaps it literally was just the minor scales. And then I guess think of the songs that were enjoyed later on after Eternal and we should check to see if they're major scales or minor scales. And what if a lot of bone stuff in the future that people didn't like was because it was all on a major scale and they didn't even know it, but they were craving minor scales. My goal with this video was simply to introduce the concept that maybe it was the musical scales that impacted us more so than the actual rapping, and perhaps further inquiry into this theory may help us understand why we like all the bone songs. And if so, we could then find all the songs in a specific key and then maybe find like the ultimate, like the Bone album in F sharp, the G minor Bone mixtape, and to see if that is what you like the best. Because when I see the Bone fans fixated on Eternal all the time, in my head I hear Wishbone, what is it in me? Makes me feel like I got to murder ya. What is it in these Bone fans that they got to have the Eternal and nothing else is ever good enough? What's the ingredient that was missing in everything else that Eternal had? But anyway, so G minor is one of the most emotionally powerful keys, and its frequent use on E.1999 Eternal is no accident. So the subconscious meaning and emotional tone of G minor. Traditionally, it's described as serious, solemn, and deep, per 18th century theorist Christian Schubart. It's associated with melancholy, tragedy, and introspection, often linked to personal or otherworldly reflection. And why it hits hard subconsciously? The minor tonality evokes a sense of loss, longing, and unresolved tension. G minor sits in a comfortable mid-range, allowing for both warmth and depth, creating an almost confessional sound. In hip-hop, it often conveys raw, street storytelling with emotional gravity, perfect for Bone's mix of mourning, survival, and spiritual themes. Why Bone using it matters. On E.1999 Eternal, tracks like The Introduction, Crept and We Came, First of the Month, and Crossroads aren't just in G minor by chance. First of the Month uses it to balance the celebration of survival with underlying pain. Crossroads turns mourning into a spiritual conversation. G minor keeps it heavy yet hopeful. The Introduction and Crept and We Came set the tone for an album about navigating death, poverty, and legacy. In short, G minor subconsciously tells the listener, this is serious, this is pain and reflection, but with a hint of resilience. That's why these songs feel so deeply haunting yet uplifting at the same time. F sharp minor has a very distinct emotional character, and its use on E.1999 Eternal, especially in interludes paired with aggressive tracks, feels very intentional. The emotional subconscious character of F sharp minor. Historically, F minor has been described as gloomy, deep suffering, but with fierce determination, from Schubart, 18th century emotional key theory. A dark night of the soul key. It conveys unrest, tension, and a sense of danger. It often evokes spiritual unease or fatalism, as though the listener is trapped between acceptance and resistance. It's frequently used in classical music for moments of inner conflict. Beethoven and Chopin both leaned on it for stormy, brooding works. Why Bone uses it here. On Eternal, F sharp minor appears on 2 interludes, Me Killa and Mr. Ouija 2, and 2 full songs, Land of the Heartless and Die Die Die. On the interludes, Me Killa and Mr. Ouija 2, these tracks pull the listener deeper into the album's underworld, Ouija boards, death conversations, and self-reflection. F sharp minor works perfectly for a between worlds feeling, unsettling but hypnotic. Songs Land of the Heartless and Die Die Die, these are hard, unrelenting tracks, survival, violence, and defiance in a cruel world. F sharp minor gives them urgency and emotional bite, making them feel like battlefield anthems in a spiritual war zone. How we experience it. When you hear these tracks, your subconscious processes tension, the minor key pulls you inward. Confrontation, the tonality almost dares you to face fear. Mysticism, especially in the interludes, you're being pulled into the seance. In short, on Eternal, F sharp minor is the liminal space key. Bone uses it for crossing thresholds, life, death, sanity, madness, and confronting the heartless reality of their world. G minor and B minor dominate. These keys set a haunting, reflective tone across the album. They resonate with the themes of death, memory, and survival. F-sharp minor moments, the interludes and hard tracks, Me Killa, Land of the Heartless, Die Die Die, Mr. Ouija 2, set in a tense, fatalistic space. Bone using music to explore liminal thresholds between life and death. Minor keys across the board. Nearly every track is in a minor key, reinforcing the dark, mournful, and spiritual palette of E.1999 Eternal. Major versus minor, the psychological levers. Major scales, bright, uplifting, optimistic. They subconsciously tell the brain, all is well, you're safe, the world is orderly. They're often tied to childhood, patriotism, pop culture comfort food, and big corporate feel-good messaging. Minor scales are darker, introspective, and emotional. They tell the brain, things are serious, reflect, something is unresolved. They evoke spirituality, rebellion, grief, and depth. This isn't just theory. Neurologically, major keys stimulate dopamine, which are reward pathways, while minor keys activate more of the limbic system for emotions, memory, and existential thought. The conspiracy. Why the music industry manipulates this. Imagine you want to control mass mood and behavior. What's the most subtle way? Through music. Manufactured euphoria. Manufactured despair. A label launches a group in major keys, upbeat, hopeful, think early pop acts, or fun radio hits. This conditions listeners into attachment and trust. Then they shift the artist to minor keys, darker, heavier themes, all aligning with moments of cultural unrest or social engineering goals. Now that you trust the artist, you follow them into the darkness. Dulling versus awakening the masses. Major scales keep people passive. They're the soundtrack for malls, commercials, political rallies, creating a docile, consuming public. Minor scales make people question, grieve, or rebel. But when framed with despair instead of empowerment, they can drive people into nihilism and compliance. The whiplash effect. Switching a popular act between major and minor scales at key cultural moments creates emotional whiplash, making fans more suggestible. It mirrors trauma bonding techniques, the carrot, major, and the stick, minor. Social programming intentions. In major, don't worry, keep consuming, trust the system. In minor, things are bad, but only we, your cultural gatekeepers, can guide you through the pain. This yo-yo between keys doesn't just sell records. It shapes emotional states on a mass scale, creating a culture that can be steered between optimism and despair at will. Bone Thugs as an example. Take E.1999 Eternal. Almost entirely minor keys. Mourning, spirituality, death awareness. But then you get First of the Month, musically brighter, almost celebratory, despite grim subject matter. That contrast makes the darker tracks hit deeper and keeps listeners emotionally hooked. In short, if you believe this theory, major-minor scale manipulation is emotional programming, it conditions society. Major scales for obedience and calm consumption, minor scales for controlled catharsis, despair, or rebellion, always within an industry-controlled narrative. Here are some examples how they flip the script on people. In 1960s, 1970s, The Blueprint, The Beatles. Early hits, 1962 to 1964. I Want to Hold Your Hand, She Loves You. These were major keys, pure pop euphoria. But then the pivot, Eleanor Rigby, A Day in the Life, Helter Skelter. These were minor, dissonant, existential. The effect, it took their fans from teenage bliss into psychedelia and cultural upheaval. David Bowie, early glam rock anthems, major-based pop like Space Oddity. The pivot, Law and Heroes era, minor keys, cold, experimental. The effect, it reframed pop stardom as alienation and existential art. Onto the 1980s, polished pop to dark icons. Madonna's early songs, Holiday, Lucky Star. These were major key dance optimism. The pivot, Live to Tell, Like a prayer, minor keys, religious angst and darkness. The effect made her a cultural provocateur instead of just a pop star. Prince started with bright funk pop in major keys. Then he pivoted to darker minor-driven themes like Purple Rain, Sign of the Times. The effect, fans followed him into complex spiritual sexual territory. Onto the 1990s. Hip-hop and grunge mood swings. Nirvana, Bleach, and Nevermind had major and modal grunge anthems. The pivot was In Utero, heavily minor, raw, and nihilistic. The effect, it pulled Generation X deeper into hopelessness and alienation. Bone Thugs and Harmony, Creeping on a Come Up, had brighter G-Funk vibes. The pivot, E.1999 Eternal, almost entirely minor, mournful, spiritual, fatalistic. The effect, it immortalized them as prophets of death and survival. Mariah Carey, early tracks, Vision of Love, Fantasy. These were major key pop R&B. The pivot, Butterfly era, minor keys, confessional, and melancholic. The effect, it redefined her as a deeper, serious artist. The 2000s to 2010s, the pattern gets aggressive. Kanye West, early work, College Dropout, was soulful and major tinged. The pivot, 808s and Heartbreak, and Yeezus was minor, cold, depressive, industrial. The effect, it brought mass audiences into emotional minimalism and existential despair. Taylor Swift, early, Love Story, You Belong With Me. These were major key country pop optimism. The pivot, Reputation and Folklore, which had minor and modal, moody, introspective. The effect, it conditioned her audience to follow her into darker, more mature, emotional spaces. Billie Eilish launched almost entirely in minor keys, When We All Fall Asleep. The inversion, Happier Than Ever, introduced major key relief moments, flipping the script. So why do this? You hook with safety, major keys. Artists debut bright and relatable to maximize mass appeal. Then you switch to depth, minor keys, minor scales. Once trust is secured, you lead audiences into darker, more complex emotional territory, aligning with cultural shifts, political unrest, crisis, identity movements. The result, fans emotionally bond with the artist through a journey from innocence, then to awakening, then to despair and acceptance. This isn't random. It's a playbook for emotional engineering and conditioning. So anyway, for any of the real musicians out there, check my work. And if what AI provided me for all these different scales, correct them in the comments. We at Beyond the Harmony know that the audience, the Bone fans, love E.1999 Eternal, all aspects of it. So we're trying to give you everything, squeeze every piece of juice and life out of Eternal during this 30th anniversary year. We hope you were enlightened. We hope this brought a little bit of additional new insight into the Eternal album that we all loved so dearly. Until next time, this is Jonathan Lippy, and we'll catch you again.